Hello, Trailblazers, and welcome to another entrepreneur journey. Today, I am very excited to have Robert Kennedy III on the entrepreneur journey. And Robert Kennedy is CEO of Kennetik Communications and host of What's My Story and RK3 podcast. And I have checked out his podcast. It is really, really good. So we're going to put a link to that after the interview with maybe some other things too. But make sure that you check out that podcast because I was thoroughly impressed when I checked it out.
Love it.
How are you today, Robert?
Fantastic. Can't complain, man. I'm so glad to be here, Doug.
Awesome. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
What do you want to know, man? I'm like a lot of human beings, layered, complex, and complicated. I don't know. I mean, I'm a dude. I'm a guy. I'm married. I've got 3 kids. Got a daughter who just went to college. And
what college?
She went to Oakwood University in Alabama.
Okay, nice.
So she's down there. She's our princess. We miss her a little bit, and she's actually back home now for holiday. But yeah, so that's
I see the
new.
orange. The reason I said that is because I see the orange, and I thought maybe you're a Clemson fan. I was hoping.
Nope, orange is one of our brand colors. So
Nice.
we did a little bit of what do you call it? Color psychology research when we were doing things. And so we have 2 main colors in our brand, blue and orange. And the blue is for trust and authority and calm, just kind of strong, strength-based leadership. And the orange is the passion and the excitement and the energy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't do as much research into my brand colors. I probably should have. I'm black, white, and a teal. You just see black and white behind me, but we incorporate a little bit of teal into our colors as well. So I have a few just kind of getting to know you questions because I know based on just the research I've done looking into you that you're a New York sports fan.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite athlete, past or present, from any of those New York teams?
Wow. I mean, that's hard. That's a hard choice. I mean, my first sport that I loved growing up was baseball. So I'm a huge Yankees fan. So my favorite player when I was growing up was Dave Winfield as a Yankee fan. Reggie Jackson was on the same team for a little bit, but I just liked Dave Winfield partly because he was tall. He was like 6'6". And I wanted to be tall. and so I just liked Dave Winfield. But, through the years, I've got a lot of other favorites. Derek Jeter is a favorite. Current Yankees players, Aaron Judge, I really like. And so, just a lot of great New York stuff. If we're talking about the Knicks, in basketball, Patrick Ewing is of course a favorite. I loved Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell when they were both there. John Starks was pretty close to them as well. He didn't do as well, but I have a soft spot for Carmelo Anthony as well. So
yeah. Nice. I would say out of all those, I'm not a big New York sports teams fan, but out of all those that you listed, I think Allen Houston might have been my favorite.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Great shooter, man.
And since this is the entrepreneur journey and we are both entrepreneurs, do you have a favorite entrepreneur?
You know what? I have a lot of favorites. I would say that Richard Branson is the one that comes to mind because when I first started business, well, not first started, I probably by the time I hit my 3rd business, and I started to really dig in. And I say my 3rd business because it was my 3rd business, but it was the first one that I was in full time as 100% entrepreneur. And I'm just kind of starting to look for mentors and looking for people who I can emulate. And I come across this dude that owns his own island and runs more than 400 companies. And I'm saying, whoa, how do you do that? Growing up in New York, we went to Tower Records, we went to Virgin Records, and then, you knew about Virgin Airlines and Virgin Mobile. And I said, okay, cool. But to find out there are 398 other companies, at least, behind that, blew my mind. So, it's still an inspiration. It's still inspiring to see how he operates his organizations and his company, and still is accessible in a way that allows me to perceive him as somebody that's super fun to be around.
Yep. I have. Reminds me, I need to reread it. His book, Screw Business as Usual. on my library over there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know you're a speaker as well. Do you have a favorite memory as a speaker?
Wow. A favorite memory. I don't know that I have a favorite memory of being on stage. Some of my favorite memories are the things that people say after. So there was one event that I spoke for, and the organizer took it upon herself to write a testimonial for me, and she said, Robert blew the roof off of our conference. It set the tone for the entire time. And I was like, woo! Yeah, it just made me feel good, because I don't know how many people have the opportunity to work in a space that they love. But when you get feedback like that and you recognize that you were able to show up as your best self in a space, it just is memorable, and it makes me feel good, man. So that's one of my memories.
That's awesome. So we touched on your podcast a little bit at the beginning. What's my story? So this is the entrepreneur journey, which is, we're going to talk about your story a little bit and fill us in on what your entrepreneur journey has been. So tell us about your journey up to this point and what inspired you to become an entrepreneur.
That is a huge, long, sorted, wavy, complicated question. Okay. So my very first business was, the genesis of that was my wife and I were in our bedroom doing that thing that couples do in their bedroom, the budget. Yeah. There you go. All right, cool. All right. So we're doing our budget, and she's like, dude, you're spending too much money on CDs. And I was a musician, and I wanted to have the latest CDs all the time. And so I'm like, okay, I need my CDs. I need to figure out a way to get CDs. And I don't remember how I figured it out at the time. I probably Googled. Well, we didn't have Google at the time. It was like Ask Jeeves or Alta Vista or something. All right. Yeah. So, but I figured out that I could call the A&R representatives at record companies and PR companies and ask to interview their artists, and they would send me free CDs. So I started doing that, and before you know it, a bunch of CDs were coming to my door. Now, here's the thing that I didn't tell you. The first company that I called, they said, okay, cool. What's your website? I didn't have a website. I said, let me call you back. We're putting some stuff together. Let me call you back on Thursday. In 2 days, this was a Tuesday. So in 2 days, I learned HTML, built a website, wow. and then called them back. I put some information on the website. I wrote a couple of articles and put stuff on there. And I reviewed a couple of CDs that I already had and put that information on there. And they sent me the CDs and they sent me the information. So this website starts. I begin to get a lot of interviews. And then we decide we're going to add an internet radio station. They had Live 365 at the time. So we added an internet radio station to the site, and that just blew our traffic up. And so once that happened, then we're interviewing artists. We have this radio station. We start to get the opportunity to put ads on the radio station. And so that begins. Now, second business happens because we start to get requests from independent artists to be interviewed on the site. So they come, and one of the things we find out is that a lot of them don't have websites themselves. Ding, 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 dude, you build your own website.
Yep, right? I get you one in 2 days.
Yeah. So, I called up my brothers. One of them had a special skill in graphic design. The other worked for IBM and was technical. And I said, dude, let's make a little bit of money. And so called them, we pulled this together, and we started building some sites for independent artists. So yeah, we started a web development company, man. So that was our first couple of businesses.
Yeah, I resonate with that because that was my origins as well in the web development space. And I would not, I'm glad the first customer bought that first website, but I don't think they would do it again. I never want to showcase that website again.
Yeah, it was stressful, man. I mean, especially we were at the time in history where all of these new different web development languages were stuff. I mean, when you first started, it was like HTML, and then we want to get dynamic websites. You got to learn ASP. You got to learn PHP. You got to add some SQL. Okay. Now CSS. What's that? Oh my gosh. Okay. JavaScript. Oh, okay. So it got a little stressful, man. I was like, I don't know how much I want to keep this up.
So let me backtrack, because you said you're a musician. This is going to go back into more of the personal stuff. What type of musician are you? What instruments do you play, etc.?
So when I was a kid, as most kids do, maybe I started out with piano, and I played piano, and it's still my main instrument to this day. But I started to learn some other stuff. I learned saxophone, I learned clarinet, and when I started to play with bands and stuff, when I got older, I learned bass guitar. Mm-hmm. When I got married, and there was a need at my church, I said, hey, let me learn how to play the drums. And so I bought a drum set and started taking lessons and learned how to play the drums as well. So that's my world, my background, man.
You could be a one-man band, just record the different parts, put them together.
I actually have done that.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Was there, now I'm going to ask you, was there ever a time you ever thought of hanging up your entrepreneur hat and doing something else?
Not by choice. No, because I think when I started out my first couple of businesses, I was in teaching. I was a teacher. I was a high school teacher. I taught science. I taught physics and biology. And so I think throughout the process, when I started my businesses the first couple of times, it wasn't with the intention of becoming an entrepreneur. It wasn't with the intention of starting a business. It's just this other thing. You know, I don't think I had a full concept of what entrepreneurship was growing up. And these things just kind of dipped into the water just a bit. But because I wasn't doing them full time, 100%, I still had this other check coming in. I still had this other stability, this other safety net. And so I didn't really understand it. So what happened was in 2008, we moved from Massachusetts to Maryland, and I'm teaching for this online university. And about 10 days after we get here, I lose my job. So I've got 3 kids underneath the age of 5 at this point. My wife, she's got a job. She gets a job here. But now I do the regular thing. I start to send out resumes looking for a job as a teacher or in the college, university, higher education space. Not getting any responses, not getting anything. I said, okay, let me try some other stuff. I start to figure out, can I do some online tutoring? Not getting any responses, getting nothing. So about October, this happens in July, about October, I had been reviewing or researching the field of instructional design at this point. Just so happens I had a master's degree in instructional design, instructional technology. And so I said, let me start to build some courses and let me figure out how that works. And so I got hired, I got a contract building a course for a professor at a university. And after I built that course, she said, hey, that was great. Can you build a few more? So I built a few more courses for her. And after that, I went into some communities and I found other places I could get contracts to build courses. And I started to build, and got about 3 or 4 contracts. I said, hey, you know what? Oh, company. So I start this company and start getting contracts and start getting 1099 contractors to come on and help me do some stuff. And so now this is the first company where I'm 100% entrepreneur, no safety net, no nothing. So I didn't really do the traditional. Some people say, oh, you got to save up 6 months salary, et cetera. And dude, it got ripped out from under me. And so I did what they say that a lot of entrepreneurs do. You jump off a cliff and build a plane on the way down, right?
Yep. It makes you resilient.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. So you told us about where you came from, kind of take us through the progression a little bit to where you are now and what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've talked about the first couple of businesses where I was staying up late, doing a lot of work, doing a lot of research but it wasn't critical. It wasn't crucial to the overall success of my life. If those businesses failed, I still had this other job. Mm-hmm. So now this third business, I've got to make this work because I've got 3 kids. My wife's working, so that helps. But I'm a dude. I'm a dad. I'm a provider. I can't just sit and play video games, right? I got to do some stuff. So I'm making this company work, and I make a mistake. I get this contract and I scale it too quickly. And so I scale it, but I scale it meaning I hire contractors to complete the job, but I didn't budget it out effectively and I didn't consider the time it would take. So on this particular contract, one of my contractors blew through about 60% of the budget for the entire contract within the first like couple of months. And so I'm like, crap, what are we going to do? And so I have to jump in and begin to do a lot of the work. I've got to put some contractors on pause and I've got to jump in and do the work. And I end up jumping in, doing a lot of work essentially for free, just so that we could finish the work. So now I jump in, I do this work for free, but now I owe contractors. I owe a lot of people. And so I'm trying to find all these different ways to make this money work. And we don't really, at this point, because of the way that this happened, and it's a few years, credit suffered, a whole lot of different things suffer. So I can't walk into a bank to say, hey, can you lend me $30,000 so that I can, make payroll and get back on track? I can't really do that at that point. So I'm trying to figure this thing out and it doesn't work. And the entire thing just blows up in my face. And so I end up going back to work in corporate. So I get this corporate gig and I'm there. I'm managing a program where we build online courses, because this is what I've been doing already. We build online courses for a government contractor. And we're there for 10 months. The company loses the RFP, the recompete. Ooh. And so they go out of business and I'm out of a job again. Right? So I kind of got to go back and figure this thing out. And so I'm trying to figure it out. I'm doing some coaching. I'm doing some freelancing and doing that type of stuff. But it's still not bringing in enough because I was essentially starting over when when the company loses the RFP. So I find another corporate gig and I'm there and I'm working there I'm there for 10 months. Same as the other one. This time, the company loses a $10 million contract and has to let go a bunch of people in our area. I mean, when the CEO called and we had the conversation, he was literally almost in tears, and I ended up almost like consoling this dude. he's like letting me go, and I'm like, there, don't cry.
It'll be all right.
Yeah. So we do this. I got let go, and at this point, I had been kind of researching some things in the background about people have been asking me, dude, are you a speaker? Are you speaking? Are you a motivational speaker? Do you speak? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even know that you can get paid for this. And so I start to research it. And so before this corporate gig ended, I said, let me join Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters and started to learn how to speak. And so I did that and I started to get a couple of things. So when this corporate gig ended, I wasn't just kind of swimming, or boating without a paddle at this point. It was like, okay, there's this other thing that I can begin to do. And I'm actually interested in it. I'm actually a little bit passionate about it. So let me see if I can build this. So I start to do some contacts and get some contracts and do a little bit of freelancing. I'm getting training gigs. I'm getting speaking gigs. And as I do this, I begin to build. I find out about the National Speakers Association, and they don't teach you how to speak. They teach you about the business of speaking. And so I do that. I join that, and this business starts to build, and I start to gain some momentum, and I start to be able to be known in certain spaces as the go-to person for leadership development training, for leadership communication training. And as I start to build that, my network starts to recognize certain things, and I start getting certain calls. And after a little while, I'm like, okay, cool. I want to build this out and I want to get other people on the team, but I also don't want to go back to scaling too quickly like we did before. And so we're at the place now where we have some contracts where we have other people on, and a lot of the times I still do a bulk of the training, but there are times where we bring other contractors on to do certain things. And, and then I'm supported by the rest of our team. We've got a couple of admins that do the calling, that do the administrative things, that do the calendaring, that do, the production, podcast editing, that type of stuff, social media. So we've got about 3 or 4 people on our team that do that. And I show up as the face most of the time, and hopefully it looks good.
Nice. I want to touch on something that you said there, because I think it's a good lesson for entrepreneurs in general. The whole scaling too fast. You said it twice. It happened to you twice, right? Is that, or you just happened to you that? No, it just happened to you that once.
It happened in a fail that one time. This second time, it was in my brain. Like, you're not going to do that again. Yeah.
Because I think everybody sees, I've got to scale. They're chasing that money, right? They're chasing to get to this revenue level, but they don't think there's got to be stuff in place as you climb that ladder. So can you just kind of expand a little bit on what you learned and what you're doing this time versus that time?
Yeah. So I think that time, I have this thing in my head, or we hear people saying you got to spend money to make money. Mm-hmm. And I think as you've got to have an understanding of who you are, because I'm a creative. I'm optimistic by nature. I'm a risk taker by nature. And I'm like, let's jump. Let's jump off the mountain. You need somebody in your space, not a naysayer per se, but you need somebody in your space that's able to say, hold on, you want to jump there? Okay, cool. I'm not telling you not to jump. Let's look at it for a second and see what are the things that are going to enhance the possibility or increase the likelihood of success in this jump. Mm-hmm. Right. So for me, initially that's my wife. Mm-hmm. She's like, dude, okay, let's look at these things, and involving her in that space. So, whereas the first time, she's working, she's doing all these different things. And I'm like, I'm the entrepreneur. I know what to do. And you stay in your lane over there and I'll do this stuff. Right. So this time it's more like, okay, what do you think about this, babe? Can we handle this? And, it's also about not making commitments more than the revenue that you have. Right. And as you create revenue, thinking about the future instead of right now. So, okay, we're thinking that we're going to scale in the next 6 months. Okay, let's take this much off of this contract. Let's take this much off of that, and let's stack that away so that we can have a little bit of a buffer. Let's put it. Let's not even keep it in the same account. Let's create a totally different account, right? Yep. In that bank way across town, and don't take a debit card from that.
Right. Yep.
So
make
that
it hard to get to.
You literally got to drive over there, dude.
Put it in the next town over or something.
Yeah. So those types of things where there's things in place for me to slow down a little bit, so that I don't rush ahead. So yeah, if I need to hire, that I've got to ask that question. Does it make sense to hire for this time? And if you need to hire, do you need to hire multiple people, or do you just need to hire the right person to do these 2 things? Because sometimes I had 4 things. I'm like, I got to hire somebody for this, somebody for that, somebody for that, and somebody for that. And now it's like, okay, let me slow down. Is there somebody who can do these 2 that can do them well enough for this period of time? Because they don't have to be a long-term hire either, right? They can do it well enough for this period of time. And then when we get to the end of that, we begin to reevaluate and see what makes the next best sense, the next best leap for us. So it's, taking things in chunks also, man, has been super helpful for us.
You're saying such insightful things that make me come up with more questions. So when you talk, because this is something that I have dealt with as well, I'm actually in the process of training someone to be my operations manager.
Right.
For less, and they have to know how to do so many different things. But at the same time, I was like, I got to hire more specialists. I got to have a specialist for this, a specialist for that. Right. But I'm trying to take myself out of more of some of the operations. So he has to know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's just something I've been struggling with mentally is hiring specialists versus grooming this person to do more of the operations, and then he can go and hire the specialist.
Yeah. So, and the funny thing about all of that is we run a training company.
Nice.
Why did it not hit me that I can train people?
Yeah.
to do stuff, right? And so right now, one of the things that we have in place that we do is, I'll hire somebody and they don't know how to run all the specific software that we use. They don't know everything, but we leaned into operations and processes. We leaned into saying, okay, cool. I can teach somebody to upskill themselves in this area. And so now we've got these folders, we've got these digital repositories where it's like, okay, I'll walk through it, I'll record it, I'll create a training on it, and I'll upload it and say, hey, here's this. So now we've got these things that if Jody is out of the office or if Jody gets sick, right, I can have Kathleen do that, because Kathleen, all she needs to do is go to the folder and say, okay, how do I get myself up to speed on this pretty quickly?
Yep. I'm all about that too. We were doing a little bit about that on our side. So now let's dive in a little bit to just your expertise a little bit. You seem to be a man of many skills, as we know already. So I'm a little. I could ask.
Isn't that like what entrepreneurs do, though? I mean, yeah.
Yep. You wear all the hats until you can take some off.
Yeah.
So let's go into storytelling, because I know your podcast is called "What's My Story," and you're a speaker, and you're that seems to be like a core thing that you do. So tell us about the power of storytelling and why being good at it can have a massive effect on someone's business.
Well, so I was sitting in my living room in Massachusetts, and I was just chilling out watching TV. The doorbell rings, and I go to the door, and there's this guy in the driveway, and he's got this big display board. I go out and I open the door and say hello, pleasantries, etc. He says, "My name's Mark, and I'm walking around your neighborhood, and we're selling carpet. And we've got all this different kinds of carpet on this display board. There's some different swatches. Come on out and touch them. We've got the Berber carpet. We've got Austin Powers shag. We've got these other 5 different types. So I'm touching the different pieces of the carpet. So we go through this for about 3 or 4 minutes. And after 3 or 4 minutes, I open my door and I show him the inside of my house. Everything's hardwood. Right? So we're there, and he comes up and he's like, yeah, I'm selling carpet. Now, I have hardwood, and most people that have hardwood are not thinking I need carpet. They're like, dude, my floor is fine. It looks good. It looks great. It's shiny, and I don't have to vacuum it. Right?
Yeah.
So what could he have done differently? He could have, instead of just selling me a product, he could have created a story. So what is a story? A story is not just once upon a time. A story is an asset that is connective, that really figures out what I need. And it really consists of 4 areas: context, characters, conflict, and conclusion. Right? So what if he came to me and he said, hey, listen, my name's Mark, and I have a quick question for you. How satisfied are you with your oil bill right now? And I'd have been like, dude, it totally pisses me off. I feel like I'm spending too much money. He's like, wow. Yeah, that seems to be the refrain of what the people in this community are saying. I've gone to like 8 houses, and everybody's so mad about their oil bill. What if I told you that there's this thing that you could do that would decrease your oil bill by 30% every month? Now I'm listening. Mm-hmm. Because he's dug into the conflict. He's dug into the hurt, the problem, the challenge, the pain I'm feeling. And then he added characters for credibility. He talked about the people in my neighborhood. So now I'm like, oh, Marcy's going through that? Judy's going through that? Oh my gosh. Right? And so he sets the stage. He adds the context by saying, yes, I'm here and I've done this, and this is what's happening. And would you like to change that situation? So then he says, if you add carpet to your floors, it's gonna add an extra layer of insulation that will decrease your oil bill. And so my next question, but we've got hardwood. Why would I want to do that? he could say, well, it costs a little bit to make some adjustments, but over time, the savings that you're going to acquire are going to be worth it for you. So he's walked through a story with me instead of just saying, hey, here's this thing that you need to buy and I'm selling it. Right. So for business owners, that's a thing that I share with them. How can you utilize storytelling? And sometimes it's your personal story. It's an experience that you've gone through. Okay. If they don't know your company, it may be your brand story. Why on earth do you do this thing? What made you start this business, and what are you passionate about, and what do you believe? What is a core value that you have about this thing and the people that you serve that allows you to do this and is going to cause you to do it long term? Right. So you've got to figure out how to incorporate stories in order to connect, because I believe storytelling is the most powerful form of communication. Yeah.
So many people become entrepreneurs because they either have a problem themselves or they know someone with a problem and they look to solve it. And that's the beginning of a story right there. Right.
Yep.
So that's awesome. And I know somewhere on your socials that you mentioned techniques and technologies of storytelling. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
So we're here. We're online, and one of the challenges that has been exacerbated, or that people have noticed like full tilt over the last year and a half, is I've got this business, but I cannot do it as effectively anymore in in-person spaces. The networking hasn't happened. Right. So I've got to figure out this other way to let people know about my business. And so a lot of people are now turning to live streaming. The issue for a lot of people is that, number one, you don't know how to structure a good story, or you don't know how to structure what you're saying visually and verbally online, so it comes across like you're just this person that's rambling. All right. How many times have you gone to Instagram and there's a video where somebody's saying, hey guys, I'm just jumping on here for 5 minutes to, okay, cool. You didn't grab my attention.
Right. I'm grabbing this coffee and then.
Yeah. So, and so now imagine that multiplied by like 3 million, 5 million, right? So you've got this competition that you're engaging in. So how do you now, as a business owner, stand out in a crowded marketplace and find people that not only need what you have, but how do you then get their attention? How do you connect with them and keep their attention? So we share in our group online, the Storytellers Growth Lab, how you can do that. Not only by structuring the story, but what are the technologies and what are the stages? What is that stuff that you need in order to help you stand out? Do I look the same as everybody else online? Do I look blurry? Do I look fuzzy? What do I need a special camera? What do I need to do? Is there lighting that I need to acquire? Where do I put the space of it? How do I sound? Does my mic sound good, or am I glitchy? Right. So I've got to understand not just the techniques of how to deliver that story. I've got to understand in some ways, or have access to someone who understands the technologies that go together with that to ultimately deliver a message that allows you to stand out.
That is awesome. And I know, like I said, from watching your podcast, that you have that all dialed in. So amazing job there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I know you've written a book called 7 Ways to Know Where You're Meant to Lead. You're also a leadership coach, correct?
Well, I was. That was kind of part of the journey. So if you remember when I started to talk about the whole concept of, going to Toastmasters, doing leadership training, doing a lot of leadership development. So at that stage, I was doing a lot more in the leadership space. So the 7 Ways to Know You Were Meant to Lead, I wrote that in 2016, 2017, when I was doing that more. So while I do speak to leaders now, and a core part of what we do is leadership communication, it's the leadership development part of it isn't so much what we do. It's really about how do we as leaders connect, communicate with our teams in a way that is confident, clear, and credible.
Nice. So tell us a little bit more about Storytellers Growth Lab and how people can find out more about that and get connected with you, because you teach some amazing stuff.
Love it. Love it. So storytellersgrowthlab.com is the website. And if you go there, there's a button that says join the community. So what happens is our main company is Kennetik Communications. That's our training company. And we do the leadership work that we do is primarily with corporations. But on the other side of that, we do some B2C work. So we connect with small business owners, coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, sharing with them how they can create better visibility for themselves through the use of storytelling, especially on video. And that's really what the Storytellers Growth Lab is about. And we're looking to reach 1 million people who will not be ashamed, or who will be able to tell their stories with confidence.
That is awesome. We're going to put the link to that below. Anything else that you would like to mention that we want to put a link to below?
Man, wow. Let me see what else is there. There's actually a great download that I have for those people who want to be able to present and connect effectively. One of the things that I suggest is asking great questions. So I've got this download that is called 21 questions you can use at the beginning of your speech or your presentations. And so it's actually a text link. So if they go to 410, if they text 410-936-4049, actually you text the word 21 questions, 21 and then lowercase questions, no spaces, to 410-936-4049. I'll send you that download. And okay, awesome. Yeah, you can grab that.
Yeah, we'll put that below. I'll take what you just said and put that below to make sure that they text that, and we'll put a link to the Storytellers Growth Lab. Robert, it has been great having you on the show today, and I look forward to continuing our relationship, because I think I can learn a lot from the way you do your podcast.
Love it, man. Hey, let's connect. I'd love to have you come to the Storytellers Growth Lab to speak to our tribe about sales at some point, and maybe we can do the same with your Trailblazers.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Bye.